Does a future with virtual reality signal the end for handheld devices entirely? And just what is augmented reality? Have we essentially created the Matrix?
We'll be answering these questions and more, discussing the differences between net neutrality and what the BlackBerry CEO is proposing, and letting you know what's up with WhatsApp. This is Luke Besant
And Cameron Norris.
Every week we bring you the latest industry news, must-have reviews, gadgets and internet culture.
Giving our opinions on the wider legal, social and moral implications of life in our digital age.
This is App to Date. In keeping with our new format, we'll be covering our opinions, the top apps of the week, and answering some questions. But first, here's the industry news.
Twitter rolls out translations for tweets.
This week, Twitter are introducing translation features onto its app and website. The translations are provided by everybody's third favourite search engine, Bing. The official Twitter support page notes,
Tweet translation is available on twitter.com, Twitter for iOS, Twitter for Android and TweetDeck.
Interestingly, this isn't the first time we've seen this exact feature be rolled out on Twitter. In the FIFA 2014 World Cup, the feature was fully available but disappeared again shortly afterwards.
In order to adjust or disable translation settings, users can go to their account settings menu and edit them from there.
Facebook Messenger voice transcription feature being tested.
Facebook is currently testing a voice transcription feature for its Messenger app. Automatic transcription is notoriously bad, especially with any irregular accents or for speakers of second languages.
We can only hope that by the time it rolls out, the feature will be ready to use.
Auto-transcription is something that excites you, isn't it, Luke?
Yeah, it really gets a bee up in my bonnet. I really like the idea of being able to be in a meeting and getting an exact transcription of what's said between the two people. Or perhaps if you ran a podcast from your front room, you could write a transcription very easily of what you were saying. Who knows? But it would be very interesting to have in lectures especially. Maybe they could use that idea and incorporate it into their new Facebook at Work network that they're currently working on. For anyone who doesn't know, Facebook at Work is a LinkedIn-style professional social network being built by the makers of Facebook that is only currently available for collaborating companies with Facebook.
The Dropbox app is finally available for Windows Phone users and Project Spartan has been unveiled.
Just as I predicted a couple of weeks ago, Microsoft have revealed Project Spartan browser for their Windows 10 operating system at the Next Chapter event. Still no sign of my new ground-up operating system, but soon.
Yeah, well, Project Spartan isn't the only thing Microsoft announced at the event. We'll also be talking more about the exciting Microsoft HoloLens later on in the show.
WhatsApp's WhatsSim lets you text for free anywhere in the world. WhatsApp, the instant messaging service, is one of the most popular services for sending messages internationally with over 700 million active monthly users. So it makes sense that a SIM card is hitting the market being built specifically for its users. The WhatsSim plan will allow you to use the messaging app for free whilst travelling over 150 countries.
That's pretty impressive. And the founder and CEO of Italian company Zero Mobile, the company behind WhatsSim, says that WhatsApp is the future of mobile communications. Its only limit is the data connection, especially when you are travelling, because the roaming charges are expensive and you can't always find a Wi-Fi everywhere, and it's not always free. As someone who appreciates and uses WhatsApp, I tried to figure out how to get around this problem. That's why WhatsSim is an extraordinary opportunity for WhatsApp.
What's more, the SIM allows you to use unlimited texting for up to a year at priced at only €10. Users will have to buy credits for sharing multimedia messages such as photos, videos and voice messages, but hey, you can't have your cake and eat it too. How much you get for your credits depends on where you're travelling to.
The CEO of the company further explains that the solution they have developed is simple and intuitive. With €5 you can get 1,000 credits that you can use, for instance, to exchange 50 photos or 10 videos in many countries around the world. While there are no limits on sharing your position and contacts. This way, they guarantee the utmost transparency. Buying a recharge is apparently quick and easy. All you have to do is go to their website, even from your smartphone, and soon they'll have a dedicated app, which we'll have to check out. You can actually buy the SIM now via the WhatsSim website, with the company also planning to make it available via a network of local distributors in 100 countries. I mean, it sounds pretty good, although paying that much for sharing photos, I mean, I'm not going to riff too much here, Luke, but I would love to use it for the texting. This is where you have to get your Xiaomi mobile with the 2 SIM interface input.
Oh, I was about to say that.
Have I stolen that, Luke? Luke was going to say that.
I was going to make a pun there. I can't even remember
Go
what
on,
it was
Luke.
now.
Go for the pun. Go on.
but-
you can take this from me.
I don't know. I guess we know why they've got 2 SIM slots now. Is all. I don't know what the pun was anymore.
What's pun?
That was terrible.
That was pretty bad, wasn't it? Podcast worthy though.
That'll make it into the edit.
Yeah. Well, that's not all. WhatsApp comes to desktop. So, Luke, would you like to tell us a little bit more about that?
WhatsApp announced the launch of WhatsApp Web on Wednesday, marking the official debut of the popular messaging app on non-mobile platforms. WhatsApp Web via the blog posted, "Today, for the first time, millions of you will have the ability to use WhatsApp on your web browser."
WhatsApp described how their web client is simply an extension of your phone, with the web browser mirroring conversations and messages from your mobile device, meaning that all your messages still have a place on your mobile phone.
So essentially it's similar to the way that iMessage pops up on your MacBook. But that's not all that's up with WhatsApp this week. They've actually banned third-party app users on Android. So what's actually happened here is that they've been banning people who've been using the third-party Android apps such as WhatsApp Plus. The users are being told that WhatsApp have also pointed out the reasoning in their FAQs section, starting, "WhatsApp Plus is an application that is not developed by WhatsApp, nor is it authorized by WhatsApp. The developers of WhatsApp Plus have no relationship to WhatsApp, and we do not support WhatsApp Plus." So that's a pretty strong statement there against WhatsApp Plus.
Unmistakable.
Yep. Please be aware that WhatsApp Plus contains source code which WhatsApp cannot guarantee is safe, and that your private information is potentially being passed to third parties without your knowledge or authorization.
Sounds like Snapchat all over again.
Yeah, Whatgate.
Whatgate. The Whatgate. I think we should make a prediction here.
Okay.
The Whatgate is going to happen if these third-party apps aren't sorted out.
I have confidence in the corporation of Facebook to sort that out quick enough for it not to slip through their hands. But we'll see what happens.
We'll see what happens. Yeah, I think they're a little bit more competent than Snapchat as well.
Yeah.
You never know nowadays, though. Look at Sony, insiders, Facebook insider, Zuckerberg's gone rogue.
Zuckerberg's gone rogue.
He's defecting to North Korea. Well, moving on from that peculiar outburst, it's that time of the day, Luke. We're entering
the opinion section.
And today, up for discussion is this. BlackBerry CEO wants app developers to be forced to make more BlackBerry apps.
Now this is this was originally intended when I started writing it to be a light-hearted article, but the more I went into the studying of it, this guy is clearly a nutter. So the CEO of BlackBerry, which is John Chen, I believe, stated on the topic of net neutrality that the US Congress should take steps to stop, quote, discrimination practices by app and content providers. He clearly stated that he feels that app creators and content creators should be encompassed within the same category as ISPs, which is internet service providers, and telecom carriers on the topic of net neutrality. But it doesn't quite work like that. Different platforms require different coding platforms. Not all companies, especially independent companies, have monies to burn on products that they think, based on analytics, wouldn't even cover their own costs. We feel strongly about net neutrality, and it's important that we don't make this what it's about. The reason that people develop for Android and iOS is that they are the market leaders. It's where all the money is for these people. And that's because they've created the superior platform of phones, the superior consumer end for phones. And because the developers want to build on these platforms, they become successful. If BlackBerry actually improved their platform for developers, then maybe the market would shift. But at the moment, BlackBerry, I think, is seen more as a business product than it is a consumer end product. He gave an example of Apple's iMessage as an app that is locked to one platform that can't be used by others. He said, unfortunately, not all content and application providers have embraced openness and neutrality. Unlike BlackBerry, which allows iPhone users to download or use BBM service, Apple does not allow BlackBerry or Android users to download Apple's iMessaging service. He also said about Netflix, even though the company forcefully advocate for carrier neutrality, that it has been discriminating against BlackBerry customers. But that's just not business, As far as I'm aware, they haven't signed an exclusivity contract with anyone, so it must be down to the fact that they just do not see the money in putting it on a BlackBerry.
Yeah, I completely agree, Luke. I think this John bloke sounds like a complete moron. Almost like he's having a bit of a breakdown.
Yeah, they haven't developed on this platform because they don't want to.
Well, it's like me. Let's say I've grown some oranges. I've got this bag of 10 oranges I've grown, and I want to sell them at John's stall because John's stall's nice and clean. I know that John will give me all the money I've asked for these oranges. And then Jimmy down the road, or John, whatever his name is, comes along and says, no, you have to sell your oranges at my stall because this is discrimination. He has an inferior stall. I don't want to put my oranges on his inferior stall because they're not going to sell, but they are going to sell on... I mean, you get the example.
Yeah.
They shouldn't be selecting the marketplace for companies who are developing products. I mean, app developers... They've got enough going against them already, and now they're going to be forced to develop for BlackBerry. I mean, Unbelievable, absolutely unbelievable.
Well, with Netflix, it might even be a case of it might sour a relationship between them and another company, or it could just be that they don't think it's profitable to put it on BlackBerry platform, which I would probably agree with. It's completely different from ISPs creating forcefully slowed tariffs. One of the ways that I've compared it is that the ISP situation is like water companies deliberately reducing the water pressure in your village so that you can't get a glass of water out of your tap, okay? And then the other one, which is this, the BlackBerry situation, is complaining that Evian don't sell in your local corner shop.
I do not see the relationship between net neutrality and what John Chen is saying whatsoever. I think it's just ridiculous. And Netflix, are you kidding me? Aren't BlackBerry supposed to be executive smartphones for business people? Why do they want Netflix? What, do they need to catch up with their series of Breaking Bad or something? Just ludicrous.
He states that neutrality must be mandated at the application and content layer if we truly want a free, open and non-discriminatory internet. The wireless broadband customers must have the ability to access any lawful applications and content they choose. And application content providers must be prohibited from discriminating based on customers' mobile operating systems. Wow.
He's a madman.
I mean, I can kind of see where he's coming from, but he constructed the argument very well, to be fair to him, but it just doesn't mean he's right, though, does it?
That's right. The practical application of what he's saying is, one, impossible. I know. Look, why don't we create a smartphone out of a potato and then force them to, install iMessenger on it?
Yeah, exactly. I suppose for him, he's only speaking about putting it on his platform.
Exactly.
He's not speaking about putting it on the new platform that I've just created in my shed. He's talking about net neutrality, and he literally means Android and iOS apps have to develop for BlackBerry.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and if not, where does he draw the line?
Who has to develop and for who? What size does the company that develop have to be before they're forced into making it for other platforms? And what size do the platform have to be before they start forcing people to build on them?
How is this going to be enforced? Are they going to chain people to their desks and say you will develop for BlackBerry?
The app police will come and get you. What, you don't know 50 different coding languages? You're going to jail, buddy.
Yeah, delusional.
Absolutely delusional. So moving away from that, onto our top apps of the week. This week I've chosen a very simple gaming app because I thought I had a nice relaxed week and this was a nice app that got me through the day on the sofa. It's called Shades. If you're a fan of Tetris, then you'll be a massive fan of Shades. It's a lightweight arcade puzzle game for iOS. This is such a good game to fill 3 minutes whilst you're waiting at a bus stop or anything like that. It's a super simple, intuitive arcade game that anyone can play from the arcade game generation. And like any good game, it gets harder as it goes along. And it's got some really, as somebody with a background in sound engineering, I really like the soundtrack to this game. Maybe it's a bit noisy, but the whole game, as in general, I really like the sounds they've used on it. The app lists its features to include simple rules, intuitive gameplay, difficult to master, and free modes of play with a minimalist design.
Yeah, I heard you playing it this morning actually, Luke, and it did sound really interesting. They were very unique sounds.
I couldn't really put my finger on it. Really, it sounds how I imagine, because I can't remember what the Wall-E soundtrack sounded like.
Yeah.
Where it sort of has that feel to it, what I feel that should have been.
Yeah, definitely. It's kind of like inside the mind of a Nintendo 64 cartridge.
I know exactly what you mean. Play this game and you'll see how nuts we sound. So Cameron has picked...
This week I've actually picked Zapper because It's a pretty cool app and it ties into our question of the week actually. Now Zapper is an augmented reality app that creates interactive virtual experiences by recognising and responding to objects and images in the real world. I know it sounds daunting, it sounds impressive, but basically Zapper lets a person view a real life scene, an advert, a kid's book, a game or a movie poster or anything really, via their mobile device and then adds information to the device's screen to make whatever the person is viewing come alive with additional content. I'm talking characters jumping up out of books, words floating across the screen, posters come alive, you know, it could be a band poster where they start playing music. It's really great, it's a very cool little app. There's even a Roald Dahl children's book that's been Zapper enabled, so that when you point your iOS or Android smartphone or tablet at the pages of the book, when using the Zapper app, animated characters from the story pop out onto the screen of the mobile device to augment the storyline and experience. I mean, it's pretty amazing for kids, their imagination coming alive.
I would really like to see that used on a Harry Potter book, because in the Harry Potter book they describe moving pages, and it would be so cool to have these moving pages in real life, although arguably that is just hypertext, but you know, I would like to see that through the glass of the screen into what's behind it.
That's a very cool idea. Well, we have one up from that. We have one up from looking through your phone. Now, the listener question this week. The words augmented reality and virtual reality have been thrown around on the show a bit. I mean, you're going to see it online, cropping up all the time. And so we've had a listener write in, who's asked us, what actually is the difference between virtual reality and augmented reality? That is VR and AR. So we're going to answer that today.
So let's start with what is VR?
Okay, so short for virtual reality, VR is a technology that allows users to view, explore and manipulate an artificial computer-generated world. So Luke, I'm talking about the Matrix here, Matrix.
So you're talking about stuff along the lines of the Oculus Rift.
Exactly. Funny you should mention that actually, Luke, because this all really started in 2008 when a 19-year-old virtual reality enthusiast, Palmer Luckey, hacked together his first VR prototype by modifying existing technology. A lot of it was from the 80s that he bought from eBay, including a 20-year-old $97,000 headset that he paid only $87 for. And Palmer's work actually led to the creation of the Oculus Rift that you've just mentioned and a complete new era for virtual reality. I mean, virtual reality had been abandoned because it just wasn't seen as practical. It wasn't really used outside of scientific and military installations.
I think it's one of those things that come in and out of fashion. It's like 3D movies. They come in every so often whenever the latest cool thing comes along, and they fade away into the background for quite long until they get another big push with a film like Avatar and things like this.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the content needs to be there, and it just really wasn't. And for those of you who don't know, the Oculus Rift is a virtual reality headset designed especially for gamers, which effectively allows players to step inside their favourite games. Now, we've tried it, and it is just like plugging into the Matrix. You stick a headset on and suddenly you're transported to a different world entirely, where you can look around, explore, race, you can ski. We were skiing, weren't we? You name it. Almost anything you can think of suddenly becomes possible.
It completely blew my mind putting on this Oculus Rift. The first time I wore it, even the introduction video to the thing, the developer kit, completely blew my mind. And I thought about it for ages before I went into it. I was thinking, I'm not going to be that impressed with this. This will just be another virtual reality headset that will be like this. But no, it really felt like I was in a three-dimensional space, and it felt so weird that I wasn't physically moving in the real world correspondingly with how I was in the game world, because it felt so real.
Yeah, it almost feels like a reality glitch, because what you're seeing around you doesn't translate into what you're feeling. So, I mean, if you're sitting on a stool and then suddenly something shifts inside the game world, I mean, I was flicking about all over the place, like my body just didn't know what to do. And I mean, I did get a bit of motion sickness, I did have a headache, but I mean, they're working on that, and there's some far more interesting technology coming out, which is just mind-blowing, but we'll get to that.
I actually got a really bad headache after using the Oculus Rift, and I think it's down to the fact that you are fooled so well into thinking that something is distant from you that your eyes start dilating to fit that But it's not that.
Yeah.
Ultimately, it is just a screen right in front of your eyeball. So your eye's changing, but the picture isn't. Mm-hmm. Now, I know some technology has recently been patented around that, but I'll let Cameron quickly talk you through AR first.
Sure. Now, VR was only really the first step, and Google quickly identified that AR, or augmented reality, has a far wider practical application, and they began developing the Google Glass.
So the Google Glass, I mean, most people know of the Google Glass as an experimental piece of wearable hardware, wearable tech. It was absolutely a game changer for a little while for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And even as far as the applications to help disabled children, and they just came up with so many things that most people would just never ever think of, that had so many practical applications. The main thing about the Google Glass is that they proved that it could have practical applications. When you think of wearing wearable tech, a lot of people's criticism of it is, well, what's the point in that then?
Yeah.
They don't see that it can help people, especially disabled people, in this special way, and it can actually help you in your life as well.
Yeah, I think the Google Glass definitely proved that AR has a practical function in modern society. And I mean, for all intents and purposes there, it was a complete success. And I mean, I was amazed that people are spending £1,500 on essentially what is a prototype. It's a pre-release model, you know, full of bugs, very little software, very little real support. I mean, in the sense of if there's a fundamental problem with what you've got, well, that's just part of it because you're one of those early adopters. But I mean, as you've said, Luke, what it did was really prove that the concept was solid, and that opened the doors for so many other companies. I mean, you may have seen these augmented reality apps on your smartphones already. I mean, there's a pretty good chance that your kids have already been using them too, because even Puffin Books are now experimenting with augmented reality by adding AR functions to Skylanders books to enable children to engage with the characters on a deeper level, as Puffin Books puts it, using their parents' smartphones. So I mean, you know, this is just like the Roald Dahl app and Zapper. This is why I included Zapper as my app of the week, because it's so on topic. It's just so on topic. And I mean, the Oculus Rift actually touched on almost every startup trend of this decade, and the creator's decision to use existing open source software gave him a huge jumpstart without legally owing anyone a penny. So, I mean, it just shows you what you can do. This 19-year-old guy in his garage has fundamentally changed virtual reality, and as a step of that, augmented reality and potentially all of our lives. I mean, but again, we'll get to that because this really is cutting edge, exciting stuff. So what's the difference between VR and AR? Do you want to get started with that, Luke?
Well, yeah, of course. So we've discussed the Oculus Rift, which uses virtual reality or VR to completely reveal your surroundings with a virtual world, isolating you from what's actually going on around you. But augmented reality, instead of taking you out of your senses entirely, superimposes virtual reality elements into the real world, creating a blend of physical and virtual reality known as augmented reality. Imagine the contents of your smartphone spilling out onto your desk and you being able to physically interact with them. That is AR.
And when you can imagine why that's so much more practical than VR. And you can see why Google put all the money into developing this Google Glasses. But there is a new generation of AR that's been released, and I mean, it's pretty incredible. The problem with AR so far is that more or less it's been limited to looking through your phone screen, unless you've got £1,500 to throw at some Google Glasses, to see visual elements added to your camera's view, which, you know, it's obviously isn't all that convincing. And the same goes for Google Glass, really, because it's limited to the top right-hand corner of your field of vision. It doesn't encompass your whole view. So really, in this context, AR is really just a fancy pants way of saying something that adds virtual elements to your camera view that aren't actually there. I mean, that's not so impressive. But this new generation of AR, it really is. We've had the second announcement at the Next Chapter Microsoft launch event was the HoloLens, which is going to completely revolutionise AR. And this is essentially a head-mounted computer combining the best parts of existing AR and VR technology, enabling concepts previously limited to science fiction to become reality. Yes, science fiction.
I think we're sort of waiting for this technology to be able to be put into, and I've said it so many times, we're waiting for this technology to be able to be put into hardware away from your face. You want the hardware somewhere else, and you want it to be streamed into maybe a contact lens inside your eye. Because let's face it, it was a weird step for us all to be carrying around phones all of a sudden, and it's even weirder to be having stuff on our face all the time.
Yeah, it's like Super Saiyan Scouter.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about, don't you? Yeah, we're all going to be wearing Scouters by the end of the year.
Is that going to be the next fashion
That
trend?
is, yeah,
You've been
yeah.
up London Fashion Week with that.
I should do actually. Yeah, we can make a Scouter model. Now, I mean, as you're saying, Luke, yeah, at the moment you have got to wear this hardware. So with the Microsoft HoloLens, which looks like a slightly more futuristic version of the Oculus Rift, you can see the world around you through its translucent lens, but that world is definitely transformed with 3D objects floating in midair, virtual screens on the wall, your living room filled with virtual characters. I mean, the advert's amazing. The trailer, the concept trailer is fantastic. There's a woman editing this bike in real time as a 3D model and then putting her edited tank onto the physical bike frame and editing it some more. There's TV screens being literally thrown onto walls.
See that was one of the things that absolutely fascinated me about it, because that is genius. That is genius in so many contexts, because you can justify the cost of this headset against, oh, I would have to spend this much on a TV anyway. I don't need a TV if I buy this headset.
Yeah, exactly. It almost makes physical electronic entertainment goods, I mean, pretty much useless.
Yeah,
I mean,
some goods like TVs and stuff seem obsolete when you see this, but bear in mind that is a long way. We'll be using smart TVs for a long time, I think, before we start seeing people just exclusively having blank walls and headsets.
Yeah, well, the other really cool thing I saw was a puppy, a Labrador puppy, running around this AR environment. I mean, imagine that. You've got a pet dog which never grows up and never messes in the house. I mean, it's like a parent's dream.
Yeah.
It's my dream. I'd have a dragon personally, but
Oh yeah, I mean, if I'm going to have anything, I'm having a Pikachu. That's
Pikachu, yeah, you could. I mean, your imagination is. You can do anything. You can do anything. This is just incredible. I mean, the thing is though, a lot of people have mentioned that there's a danger that this kind of technology could make us less aware and kind of appreciative of the world already around us and leave us disconnected from real people. But arguably, I mean, aren't mobile devices doing that already anyway? And I'd actually think that people syncing up this kind of AR headsets, you know, that's a more of a communal activity. It's like Mark said. He said it will be more like gathering around the campfire to tell stories, but it's going to be three-dimensional. I mean, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's a difficult one to judge, because I got this from a meme, but I saw this photo of people waiting at a train station, and it says, "Oh, technology's making us antisocial," and it's got everyone looking down at their phone, and then it's got a picture of the 1940s and everyone looking down at their newspaper and not talking to each other. So it's not like we've always been these massively social creatures that are being destroyed by technology. We just generally try to keep ourselves to ourselves. We are pack animals, but not giant pack animals, and we live in giant cities.
Yeah, I agree with you there actually, Luke. I think people's natural personality, and I mean, there's certain kind of social dynamics that adjust to technology, but I don't think they get overridden by technology.
Yeah, don't get dominated by technology.
Yeah, exactly.
Yet.
Yeah, not until Skynet.
When Skynet
Yeah.
gets here.
But I mean, you know what? We can almost forget about everything we've just said. And I'll tell you why, Luke. Because there's a little known company backed by Google that's about to one-up Microsoft, that's about to one-up the Google Glass, and that's about to one-up the Oculus Rift. Now, it's been a few months since Google actually helped this company raise $542 million for their mysterious augmented reality startup called Magic Leap. Now, Magic Leap planned to shoot a tiny projector straight into your retina. This is not looking at a screen. This isn't a tiny LCD panel in your face. This is light particles being projected into your eyeball, onto your retina, which they can manipulate to behave in the exact same way as light particles reflecting from objects in the natural environment. There will be a perfect blend between the real world and the virtual world. Screenless. It's amazing. It is amazing. You can see why they've made so much money.
I think the technology that people need to start investing in, if we're going to be living in virtual reality for the rest of our lives, is smell technology.
That's a really good point.
Because there is not even a primitive smell, not even a simple smell broadcasting system.
You're right, exactly.
Whereas with almost everything else, I mean every other sense you have, there is.
There is, yeah.
Well, the 5 Greek senses, I would say.
5 Greek senses. So, Magic Leap have explained that a virtual TV projected onto your retina could be calibrated to fill the entire wall of whatever room you're sitting in, and that controlling the TV would also be as simple as swiping through a menu of options hovering right in front of your face or displayed on a nearby coffee table. In theory, there are no limits to Magic Leap with the ability to instantly transform anything into a screen or remote. I mean, it goes back to Microsoft's dream with HoloLens. Like I said, this just one-ups it. Light particles beam straight into your eyeballs. This is something out of, Minority Report. Incredible, absolutely incredible. And I mean, the company basically, they want to bring magic back to the world. And they've described on their website how exploring human creativity is as great an adventure as exploring space. And they want computing to feel completely natural. And I mean, there's a great word for this, which is biomimetic. They want computing to become biomimetic, which effectively means it respects how we function naturally as humans, and it even exploits that. And this is exactly what this is doing. Humans aren't designed to look at screens 3 inches away from their eyeballs. We will go blind. We are designed to take light input into our eyeballs to be read by our retina cells to send a message to our brain. And that's what this is doing. It's hijacking the optic nerve, essentially. And genius, absolute genius. Now, the technology they've recently patented, I mean, this was just last Wednesday. It's called Dynamic Digitized Light Field Signal, which, I mean, as I've said, is a biomimetic. So it respects how we function as human beings, and it essentially produces a synthesized light field that falls upon the retina in the same way, as I've described already, as light reflected from real objects in the environment. So, the possibilities, endless, potential, completely smashes Oculus, Google Glass, HoloLens, you name it, completely. Zappa, you're not even in the picture, mate.
You have really done your research on this. That is exceptional.
Thank you very much. I'm just amazed by it. I've got a bit of an obsession at the moment with genetic algorithms, right? So I've got this software which you can basically simulate evolution generation by generation with this fantastic physics engine which randomizes code to create objects of different shapes that react with the environment. Well, I'm just imagining you could apply that to the human body to kind of to calibrate this kind of technology. And I mean, it would just become more and more realistic and sync to your own kind of relative view of reality. So, I mean, your opinion of reality is slightly different to mine. Colour tweaks, everything. Let's set this up with some neural networks and let's create the Matrix, Luke. I think we can create the Matrix.
Maybe you're already in it.
Maybe. Yeah, I'm looking back at my memories through my life, and actually this is just one of them. I'm actually an old man in a cryogenic chamber with a highly advanced dynamic digitized light field signal being beamed straight into my optic nerve.
Okay, so before Cameron gets any more sub-psychopathic on this episode, I would like to say a massive thank you for listening in. I've been Luke Besson.
And I've been Cameron Norris, maybe.
And we will see you after Judgment Day.
You've been listening to the App to Date podcast.
Follow us on Twitter at iOSAppNews24. Find us on Facebook, the App to Date podcast, where you can catch up with the latest show notes, artwork and discussions and more.
We also offer a free weekly email news summary which you can sign up for through the Facebook page.
And if you're interested in sponsoring or a partnership with the show, make sure you visit our website www.3deal.co.uk for more information.
Subscribe and we'll see you next week.